Hi guys, today's video is in response to the many questions we've been receiving on our comment section on how to identify a good breed, how to handle the eggs, how many eggs to give a chicken to lay on to hatch, which kind of eggs, and all that process until the chicken becomes mature. So today's video is going to be answering all those questions. Before I go on, I would like to request those watching these videos and you've not subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe and support us to be able to produce more content like this and to educate other people. All right. So first of all, I believe the first thing is to identify which breed of chicken you want to have on your farm. So for us, we wanted the indigenous breeds, but not just the normal indigenous ones, but indigenous breeds that are actually healthy and strong. So our process starts way before the chicken lays eggs. First, we identify a good cockerel for the farm. You can see how big this cockerel is. So this is the cockerel that we use this time to mate with a chicken, and so that we get good eggs and also get good sized body of chicken. How do we identify a good cockerel? For us, we look at the size first of all. We want to get bigger sized chicken for meat, and actually bigger sized chicken I think also produce bigger eggs. So we identify the cockerel first. You can see this one is quite strong. It's not even a year old. You can see. Look at the age of cockerel by we use this I don't know what it's called at the back here. This is quite young. It's not even a year old, or if it's a year old, where it's just slightly over a year old. So we get quite a strong cockerel for the farm. And before I go further, once let's say the eggs for this season have hatched, this cockerel is not going to be on the farm anymore. We're going to get another cockerel now to avoid inbreeding. So this one just serves for 1 or 2 seasons, and that's it. The other thing is the ratio of a cockerel to the number of chicken you have on the farm. For us here, we use about 1 cockerel, I think 1 cockerel to about 7 or 8 chicken. So that to make sure that at least the number of eggs you get, most of them are going to be fertilized. So the ratio of cockerel to chicken is very important too at that stage. Now the other thing is, we also want, if you've got a good size cockerel, you also need a good size hen. And you can see this one is quite big. I wish I could show you the thigh. It's quite big. So we identify chicken that are healthy, good body. You can see the way the feathers are. You can see this chicken feeds very well. You can see from it, what do you call it? I don't know what it's called. I'll say tummy for lack of a better word, but you can see. So this process begins way before even the chicken start laying eggs. You get a good cockerel, and then you get good sized chicken, healthy chicken. Now, the other stage is once they start laying eggs, then what? This indigenous birds, pure indigenous birds, they don't lay eggs throughout. So you'll know there's a sound they make when they start laying eggs. I don't know what we call it here, but there's a sound they make. So you know they're in season now to lay eggs. And you can actually see around, you can see the cockroach chasing after them, and you can see the mating. So they lay about 15, anywhere from 10 to about 20, 22, 25 eggs. And once some lay every day, some will lay one day and skip every other day. They skip one day in between, depending on how you feed them. If they are fed very well, or if they get satisfied after feeding outside, they may lay eggs every day. But it varies a lot. Some lay every day, some lay every other day. Now, after the eggs, when they're laying the eggs, you identify, because you have very many birds on the farm. So you have different laying nests. So you need to identify where each bird is laying its eggs. Some actually lay outside. Some outside, some inside. But for us here, we have laying nests inside the chicken coop, where the chicken lay their eggs. So we can actually identify this chicken goes here, this chicken goes here, this chicken goes here. Now, because they don't start laying at the same time, they lay eggs for different periods of time. But how do we identify now the chicken is ready to lay on its eggs? The chicken usually stay in its laying box maybe for a few minutes to 1 hour to lay an egg, and then it goes to feeds away. It goes away to feed, and then it comes back the next day or the day after if it's laying an egg every day or every other day. Now, how you identify that it's ready to lay on its eggs? It will come on that day and lie on the where the eggs are for an extended period of time. First it start, I think, for about maybe 3 to 4 hours and then goes away. And then the next time it will be there for maybe a whole day. So for us here, when the hen is there for a whole day, we know now it's ready to lay on its eggs. So we go to the eggs. Oh, before I go there, how do you handle eggs? For us here, we leave them. First of all, the eggs that you're not going to eat, the eggs that we're going to use to hatch chicks, we leave them in the laying nest. Laying nest, yeah, we leave them there. We don't handle them a lot. But if you have to handle the eggs, you have to make sure your hands are clean, and you have to store them. There's a way you store them. If you have to store them, I think the sharp end pointing downwards, because I think the sharp end, I'm not sure which one has the oxygen part that the chick uses to breathe inside. So if you lay them opposite, the egg spoils faster. So you store them the sharp edge pointing downwards. That way they're able to extend the shelf life. Now you've kept your eggs well. Now you've identified the chicken is ready to lay on its eggs. So now it's for you to identify which eggs you're going to give to the chicken. Here on the farm, our practice is we choose the bigger eggs and very clean eggs. So we choose the very clean eggs and bigger ones in size. And I think it's our own theory that the bigger body chicken lay bigger eggs. It's just our own theory. I'm not sure it's scientifically proven, but that's the theory we use on the farm. So I'm going to go inside and show you a bird that's laying on its eggs. So inside here we have several birds laying. I think we have about 6 or 7 laying on eggs. So where do we reach? Now we've identified the bird has stayed there for an hour, a day, continuously in the laying nest. It's ready to lay eggs. So which number of eggs? How many eggs do you give per bird to lay on? That's important too. Currently we've given each of our chickens 12 eggs to lay on, but usually for us it depends on the size of the egg. Again, if the size of the hen, if the hen is quite large with a bigger wingspan, then can able to lay, you can put even 15 eggs, but we feel safer doing 12 eggs for us here. And the 12 is that depending on which bird, some are able to lay all the eggs, some are able to lay maybe to hatch 9% of the eggs or 60%. It depends on the type of the individual bird, depends on that. And so over time we've identified which ones of our chicken are able to lay on a certain number of eggs and give us the highest number of chicks. So those are the ones we've allowed to lay on the eggs to hatch at this moment. And the reason you might ask why out of all this chicken we only have 7 of them laying of eggs, it's because our chicken are free range, they forage around, so they need a certain space to be able to get satisfied. So we don't want to hatch very many chicks and then we have very many birds on the farm, and that keeps pressure on feeding them. So we decided this time we want about 40 chicks. So we control how many chicks we hatch on the farm, and we also control how many chicken we have on the farm because of the size of the farm. If you have a lot of them, there's pressure on the land. But again, when we are starting, we had very few birds on the farm. So for us to get to these numbers, we used turkeys to hatch. So a turkey can even give it 40 eggs, and it's going to hatch a lot of them because it's a larger wingspan, and a turkey is very good on laying its eggs. Turkey sometimes can lay on its eggs 3 days continuous or 4 days continuous or even a week continuous before coming out. So it's very good for hatching chicks. But for now we have to control this because we know we have good numbers, and we also don't want to put pressure on the birds and cause stress and diseases and all that. So that's why you have only this number of birds lying. So I want to show you, I don't know whether you can see, let me see which is the best one to show you. That is not very, which one you can see. Let me show you this one over here. So this is the very first hen that started laying on eggs. It's now about 1.5 weeks, and it's laying on guinea fowl eggs. Guinea fowl eggs take 28 days to hatch, so it has another about 3 weeks or so to hatch. But again, if you're uncertain that your bird is ready to lay on the eggs, when you put the eggs there for 1 or 2 days and you try to touch it, That's the sound. That's the sound it makes. It's very defensive, protecting its eggs. And you know that bird is ready to lay on its own eggs for hatching. So now you've got your chicken laying on the number of eggs you want it to lay, depending on the size and all that. So you know a chicken takes 21 chicken eggs take 21 days to hatch, and then once the first chick is out, it takes about, for us the chicken takes 3 days inside the hatching nest, so that all the eggs are completely hatched, and you know which ones are not going to hatch. You remove those ones and you remove the shells and all that. Now after that, what do we do? Now the chicks are what, 1 to 3 days or so. What do we do? First of all, for chicks on the farm, we give them liquid paraffin. That helps in digestion. It's very important for chicks. We also give them multivitamin, and also we give glucose with warm water. That helps the first few days. It's very important. Our experience on the farm is that the chicks are very sensitive from day 1 to about 2 weeks. So we take care of them we take very good care of them at that point. So we give them liquid paraffin to help in digestion of the now new food that's being introduced to them. We also give them multivitamins for strengthen their immunity, because now they're exposed to the atmosphere and all that, everything surrounding the environment. And also we give them starter feeds. Now at that point you have to do commercial starter feeds. Why are we doing this? Because at least we know the starter grams have a balanced diet. They have vitamins, they have protein to help the chicks grow faster, and they also have carbohydrates for energy. So we'll feed them that for a few weeks. But at this point, something I need to mention that I've kept on mentioning in my videos, is that if you have these indigenous birds, pure indigenous birds, and you're planning to let them forage outside, that is free range, then at that early stage, maybe after 1 or 2 weeks, if the weather is nice and warm, you let them out with their mother to forage. And that's because the mother teaches them the various things to eat, whether it's the grass, whether it's other vegetations, whether it's the insects. It's very important that the mother shows them how to forage and to look for their own food themselves. Otherwise, if you leave them, and again that's from experience, if you let them make them get used to the commercial feeds for a long time, maybe up to 2-3 months, and then let them outside, they're not going to be able to feed at all. They'll struggle, and initially they will struggle, and those first days of struggling, they're also going to become sick and get exposed to so many diseases. So it's important that you let the hen stay with its own chicks for up to, I feel like, up to 2 months or so, 2.5 months, or 3 months if they're if it's this kind of it's indigenous birds and you have space on your farm. Then once you withdraw the bird, the chicks are able to feed by themselves. Another important thing I need to mention is that for this kind of birds, it's good to let them be as natural as possible. They grow as natural as possible. Don't try to introduce either hormones to make them lay more eggs, or don't try to force them like some people do. And I don't feel it's ethical, because once a bird, say, lays on its eggs for 3 weeks and hatches, you remove the chicks and you introduce other eggs. So the bird stays there for another 3 weeks again. But from our point of view, we feel that this is not ethical. The bird needs to be as natural as possible. It needs to hatch its own chicks, take care of its chicks, as a mother, and then finish off with them. And then after a few months, it'll come back to season again, lay eggs, and hatch its own eggs. So we feel that it's better and it's more ethical if the birds are let to be as natural as possible. So now the birds, let's say now the chicken has stayed with its own chicks for maybe 2 months, 3 months. They are strong, they are healthy. They can be able to, in fact, you'll actually see yourself, they'll be going from the mother, away from the mother more often, and not be walking very close to the mother always, as they do when they're young. Now, the other thing is, now you've come to the other season now. Now the bird needs to go back and lay eggs and hatch again. The cockerel that you used to hatch those chicks cannot be on the same farm again, because these chicks are 3 months. In another 2 months, they'll be ready again they'll be ready to lay eggs. You don't want the father of the chicks to mate with them. So at that point, what you do is we either consume or we remove the cockerel that is the father of these chicks. We remove it from the farm and acquire another cockerel now that's able to mate with the hens at the farm and produce other chicks. why is this important? One, to avoid inbreeding, and also because I think it's to get different DNA, and that helps the birds, keeps the birds stronger, more immune, and also they get better genes from other cockerels, so that this helps them survive more. Yeah, other experience is that what you've noticed, these indigenous birds, if you let them grow that naturally, actually more of them survive. In fact, the only risk you have is predators. And something important I forgot to mention is that we do vaccinate our chicks at an early age. The normal day 1, and then after 6 weeks, the different diseases out of Gumboro, Newcastle, fowlpox, coccidiosis. We do all those vaccinations so to give our birds a better chance of surviving in future. That's very important. Even if these indigenous birds, you have to vaccinate to give them a better chance of surviving. But once you do the initial vaccinations, then the chances of surviving are very high. So what's the other thing that after vaccination? What's the other thing that keeps them healthy? I think from about 3 weeks, you can start giving them a little bit of ginger in their water, a little bit of pepper in their water, a little bit of aloe vera in their water. These things help either give them multivitamins in their system, strengthen their immune system, so that they can protect against other diseases around. The other thing I need to speak about is the weather. Where we are now, we have periods of intense rainfall, and we have periods of intense sunshine. So how do we manage that? One, because of the housing. The chicken, they are very good housing that protects them from the elements of weather. But there are periods that the chicken, like now, it's nice and hot. At 8 o'clock, they're out. They go back inside the houses around 5:36. But when it's raining, so we have to look at the weather before we open for the birds to go out, especially the very young ones. When it's raining, we have to wait until the sun comes out and the ground is a little dry for us to let the young ones out, because we don't want them to either get cold or step on mud when they are initially young. That affects them health-wise. So that's important too, to protect them against the weather. However, the adult birds here now are used, if like say now it's very sunny and it starts raining, they're all going to rush back into their house, into their chicken coop, and stay there. They don't like being rained on. And then once the rain stops, they're going to come out. So the young ones will learn from the adults as they grow. Something else I need to clarify, I feel can be important. When you're looking for different breeds of chicken, remember, free-range chicken is not a breed. It's just how they are raised, which means they are raised free-range. They are let out to go and forage and eat grass and all that, but it's not a breed of chicken. So you'll find even the indigenous birds, they are free-range. You'll find the improved ones are free-range. Different breeds of chicken are going to be free-range or closed inside. So I need to clarify that. And the test for either meat and eggs, the free-range ones have a good test, but the indigenous birds that are free-range have the best tests in terms of eggs and meat. That's according to our experience. So what we have here is indigenous free-range chicken. So they are indigenous, but we raise them on pasture outside free-range. So to recap the whole video, what we've discussed the whole video, I'll just state the points, the important points. And just before I go there, we're giving our experience as not as commercial farmers, because that's a whole different topic, a whole different strategy. We are just doing this with the experience as self-sufficiency farmers, and trying to be as ethical as possible to our hens and let them be as natural as possible. So to recap the whole thing, the first thing we said is you need to identify the breed that you want. For us here, it's indigenous chicken. That's the first thing. Secondly, once you get these birds, not all of them are good for breeding. So you have to identify which bird is good and is going to give you even, let's say, 90% of the chicks that it lays on. So you have to identify between a good bird that is going to lay on its eggs. You also have to identify a good cockerel that's going to give good genes to the what word do you use? To the offspring. Yeah. So the third point would be the eggs. You have to identify which eggs you're going to give to your bird. Here on the farm, we give fresh eggs. not more than 2 weeks old. And then our eggs are usually clean, and you also select the large ones. That's just our own theory, that the large ones give hatched into bigger chicks. But that's our theory at the farm, our experience at the farm here. So eggs, you have to store them properly, fresh eggs, and yeah, fresh eggs and bigger eggs in size. And then number 4 is to identify the bird that's going to lay on the eggs. One, you'll see, you have to make sure it's ready to lay eggs. That we discussed, it's going to be in the laying nest for longer, maybe a day or 2 days. So when you see it spending that long, as opposed to the normal 1 hour to lay eggs, then you know this bird is ready to lay on the eggs. And also when you go to remove it from the laying nest, there's a noise it makes being defensive. So you know that one is ready to lay on the eggs. Number 5, it's the number of eggs you're going to give to a bird. We use here, the formula we use here is to check how big the chicken is and then how big the wingspan are. So if depending on how big it is, we'll give eggs ranging from 8 eggs to about 20 eggs. Depends on all that. So usually here on the farm, what we do is our formula is we usually stick to 12 eggs at most per hen if you're using hens. Some time back we used turkeys, and a turkey can lay on even 50 eggs because turkeys are bigger with bigger wingspan. The other point is the hens are going to lay on the eggs for 21 days. So you have to be ready. You have to have a calendar, mark those days, and then at the 21st day, you're at least ready. At the farm, you have your multivitamin, you have your glucose, and also you have your liquid paraffin. Liquid paraffin is sold in agrovet shops. It's not the normal paraffin you find from petrol stations. It's a special kind of liquid that is given to birds to help in digestion, because now you're introducing new kind of food to them. So they need that to be able to digest their food. And it's added onto water and to their drinking water. So what we do, we add on the first day or the second day, we put glucose in the drinking water for the birds. We also put liquid paraffin there. Glucose just helps to give them energy to be able to keep warm, and also energy to be able to move around and all that. And depending on where you are situated, you can be giving warm water to the chicks on the first week or so. And then for feeding, we have for the chicks, our experience here on the farm is we have to give them starter grams, commercial starter grams. The reason is because small chicks, you need to specifically make sure they have a balanced diet. That's the right quantity of proteins, right quantity of starch, right quantity of vitamins. And so it's hard using your own feeds, unless you are an expert in making your own feeds. It's hard to know that this type of food, if you're giving maize or crushed maize or chonga that we've spoken about, it's very hard for you to determine that they're getting the right amount of vitamins or amount of nutrients inside there. So for us, for the first month or so, we're going to give starter grams, commercial starter grams. You need to feed starter grams for the first month, so the birds, you at least you're sure there's the right amount of nutrients for the growing chicks. And then after that, it's vaccinations. We have to do vaccinations for the birds because some of the diseases, the only way you can prevent them is using vaccination, so that you don't have to give antibiotics later on. So check the schedule for vaccinations and vaccinate on time for all the diseases, all of them, all the diseases, and Newcastle too, that you have to do every 3 months or so. That one you have to do, otherwise you're going to experience a lot of issues with the growing chicks. And remember, here we let them be as natural as possible. So you're not pushing them to grow fast. We're just letting them grow naturally, progress naturally from chicks into adult hens. So there is no pressure for them to keep to grow faster than they're supposed to. And the other thing I've mentioned here is you have to let them stay with their mother as long as possible, because of the reasons I explained earlier in the video. You have to let them stay with the mother as long as possible, because there is no pressure here. It's not like the commercial chicken. You have to breed in 6 weeks, have a certain weight, and then you take them to the market. These ones, you let them be as natural as possible, because that's how they like it, and that's how they're going to flourish as birds. The other point I need to insist on is regular, after you vaccinated the birds, regularly giving them, we call them traditional herbs, also, let's, for lack of a better word, but you give them ginger, either ginger once every 2 weeks, or pepper in their water, or aloe vera. That's what we do on the farm to keep the diseases at bay, and to make sure that to give the chicken a better immune system, better immunity towards the disease. So we do that regularly, and it's really worked for us and helps us a lot on the farm. So that is the other very important point. And the last point is that once, for that, let's call it a season, once enough chicks has been hatched, now you can't use the cockerels again, because the chicks are going to grow into adult chicken, and you don't want them to mate with their fathers, let's say fathers. So immediately you've done that, now it's time for you to remove the cockerels that you had on the farm and get new cockerels to come in for the next generation of chicks that you want to get. That's very important too. That's to avoid any inbreeding among your birds, because inbreeding also weakens the genes of the birds, and they're susceptible to diseases. They don't go to large size and all that. So it's important that once you've produced your chicks, now you get rid of the cockerels. Yeah, and the cockerels at the farm here, we usually eat. That's what the cockerels now we consume as meat once they are done with mating. Or sometimes we also exchange with family members or people around who have the same breed of chicken that you want, cockerels that you want. That's indigenous birds. So we can also exchange with people around. However, remember, when you introduce a new bird to your farm, you have to isolate it for the first like 3 weeks, observe it, give it multivitamins, make sure it's not sick before introducing to the general population of your birds on the farm. So that's it for today's video. And maybe before we finish this video, I just want to introduce something very quickly. We have our new life on the farm now. We have about 30 chicks, which is going to be our consequent videos. So we are hoping to take you through all this journey from how we started, from their first week until they mature into adult chicken. So keep locked and keep watching. So thank you for being with us today. Please share this video with your friends. Comment on the comment section. Let us know what you'd like to know more, so we can share with you our experience here on the farm. And also thank you for those who've been subscribing to our channel. We appreciate you, and we request that more of you keep subscribing, and this family can grow.